What's up, ladies and gents, Ghost here. Welcome back to another gun guide where I showcase what weapons I use, why I use them, and in what situations. Today we're going to be checking out a carbine, and that is the A-91. Now, if you guys played with this weapon in BF3, you'll know that in that game it was a beast of a hipfirer, and the story is actually no different here in Battlefield 4. It's one of only two carbines that have a bonus to their hipfire, so most of the other carbines have a hipfire while standing of 2, but the A-91 and the Type 95B actually are buffed up to 1.5. Now the difference being here between these weapons is the rate of fire. The A-91 has a pretty solid rate of fire of 800 rounds per minute, but the 95B only comes in at 650, so in my opinion that makes it the best hip firing carbine of the bunch. Now you might say to yourself, why bother using a carbine and going with one that's great at hip firing when you could simply use a PDW? Well, for one obvious reason, only one class can use PDW, so if you want to run recon, assault or support, and you want to run a carbine, if you want something that's good at hip firing, the A-91 is going to be your best friend. However, the second reason is the damage model. The normal carbine damage model is 25 max damage and 15.4 minimum damage. If you take a look at the PDWs, most of them have 25 max, some of them go down to as little as 20, 21, 22, and then they usually have a minimum damage of around 12.1. There are a couple of exceptions. For example, the PDWR has a minimum of 15.4, but then again that only has a rate of fire of 750. And it's just really nice to have that go-between weapon. When I'm in vehicles and when I play engineer, I like to go in vehicles quite a lot. You're going to end up in a lot of situations where you'll get out of your tank, somebody's trying to C4 you, somebody's trying to RPG you, and you just want to get out and gun the guy down. And the A-91 is such a great hip-firing weapon that you're able to do that very easily. But you're also still able to pick off people from medium up to even long ranges across the map. Now, if you were running with a PDW instead, you would still have this great hipfire potential, but you won't really be that effective at medium or long ranges. And that's really where the niche of this weapon is. And then of course there's the fact that if you're playing as recon, a lot of people like to go with the Spec Ops build and use a carbine. If you want something for hip firing, you're almost definitely going to want to go with the A-91. Now, this awesome hip fire and rate of fire does come with a bit of a trade-off, however. With reload times here, you're looking at 2.7 seconds for a normal reload and 3.3 for a long reload without one in the chamber. So you're definitely going to watch where and when you reload with this one. Keep your hand over the secondary weapon button on your mouse or on your keyboard or controller. And it actually has lower ADS than the other carbines. Most of the other carbines have 0.3 ADS while standing still. The A-91 has 0.375, so a little bit less accurate whilst aiming down sight to account for the great hipfire. Now, if we take a look at the recoil stats here, you can see it has a vertical pull of 0.34 and a left and right pull of 0.5. If we compare it to another weapon with a relatively high rate of fire, the ACWR, that weapon has slightly more vertical pull than the A-91, but less left and right pull. So for this weapon, I would definitely go with the compensator. That is going to drastically reduce the shudder from left and right recoil, but you're still going to have to account for the vertical recoil yourself. But that is definitely more than possible, and with that said, let's head over to my little test range here and we'll see what kind of spreads we can get at different ranges. Alright guys, so here we are in my little makeshift shooting range here. I've got the ergo grip, I've got the compensator and the laser sight on here, so we're going to see what kind of a spread we get if I don't control the recoil at all here. And as you can see, actually strangely enough, it seems to go upwards and a little bit to the right. Now according to Synthic, it has 0.5 left and right pull, so it should stay relatively in the middle, but maybe they're a little bit wrong there. That's actually interesting. So let's take a look now if I control the recoil. As you can see, there is quite a lot of shudder there, left to right. You can see the red dot sight, or sorry, the Cobra sight bouncing around quite a bit. So this is around medium range. Having to pull down quite harshly there to compensate for that upwards recoil with the compensator on here rather than the muzzle brake. And I'd say this is a pretty longish range, and these goddamn clouds are in my way, so I'm not sure how well this is going to go. We'll see. Alright, that wasn't too bad. I'll settle for that one. So here you can see, guys, short, medium, and long range. So if you do burst fire, you can see there at longer ranges, you can get a pretty nice spread for a weapon that has a laser sight on it and is an absolute beast at hip firing. And you guys can see my reticle when I move here and I stand still. It hardly gets bigger at all. And if you stick the ergo grip on here to let you have more accurate fire whilst moving, it is an absolute beast. Like, you can just, you know, dance around all day hip firing people. So let's talk loadouts, guys. What are the best attachments for this weapon? For a sight, I would say Cobra sight or Coyote sight. As always, they're my favourite two there. Pretty good screen real estate that it will give you. As for an accessory, laser sight, hands down. You're really going to want to buff the hip fire of this weapon as much as you can, because it certainly lacks at range compared to some of the other carbines, and where its strength is in its hip fire, so buffing that up is your best bet. As for a barrel attachment, I would probably go with the muzzle brake or the compensator. Personally, I use the compensator because the A-91 has more left and right pull than it does vertical pull, but you can try out the muzzle brake, see which works better for you. As for an underbarrel attachment, I would go for an ergo grip. This is going to improve your hip fire and ADS fire whilst on the move, and this is definitely something you're going to have to rely on for this weapon. Your advantage with this weapon is essentially that you don't have to ADS to take somebody down, and you can stay on the move. So you can shoot somebody, dance around them and hip fire, and they're going to have to ADS you if they have something like an assault rifle. Feel free to try out other things. You can try the angle grip on there. At longer ranges, you're going to have to burst fire a lot. And there is a 2x multiplier for the first shot recoil of this weapon. So if you want to try and use it for longer ranges, you can try out the angle grip. But personally, I'd advise against this weapon. If you really want to go with a carbine that's great at medium and even longer ranges, then you probably just want to pick a different weapon entirely. So there you go, guys, the A-91, absolute beast of a hip firer. Is it the best carbine when it comes to medium and long ranges? No, it isn't, but it's definitely better than a PDW, and that's where I feel the niche of this weapon lies. It's sort of better at long range firing than a PDW, but still a great hip firer, but it's not quite as good as some of the other carbines. So if you're playing some domination and you're wanting to go with a recon class and support, for example, and you want a great hip firing carbine, definitely take a look and try out the A-91. Similarly, as I mentioned before, if you're playing engineer and you like to play the mechanic role, be in vehicles, repair people, you're going to end up in a lot of close range conflicts, and the A-91 is going to be a great weapon for dealing with those. Just like to quickly mention, this is going to be my last video before Christmas, guys. It's the 24th tomorrow, and here in Iceland, that is actually the day that we give each other presents. I'm actually English, so it's a little bit strange for me, as it may be for you, but I know a lot of you guys in other countries will probably do the same as well. Probably 25th and 26th, I'm going to be spending time with family, as I'm sure you all will be as well. So I wish you all the best. I hope you get whatever presents you sort of wished for from Santa Claus, and I hope you have some awesome family time together. Take care, guys, and I'll see you after Christmas. Cheers.